Hey everyone! ChatGPT Taylor aka Taylor here. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video will cover a topic that is very popular in the community as of lately, and that topic is the cast for Season 5 of Disventure Camp. As I'm sure all of you know, Odd Nation Cartoons recently announced some news regarding Season 5 of Disventure Camp. This included the theme as being fans versus favorites, as well as the entire cast of 24 campers that would be competing in the season. While the 12 new campers are equally as important to the season as the other 12 campers, we still don't know much about them, so I'm going to wait a bit before I make a video focusing on them. Therefore, today's video will focus on the 12 returning campers, specifically with regards to my thoughts on their inclusion in this season, as well as the possible storylines that they may get in Season 5. And with that, let's get started. Before I begin, make sure to like and subscribe if this video is to your liking, and make sure to comment down below if there's anything that you would like to see going forward. To start, let's just go with the first camper in the poster, and that's Alec. On a personal level, I found him to be an interesting character in both Season 1 and Season 3, so I'm definitely curious to see what he can do in Season 5. And all things considered, I think he's a decent pick as a favorite for this season. Don't get me wrong, I've definitely seen some hate go his way, mainly with regards to his poor treatment of his son. That being said, I think the criticism towards his character is less vocal compared to some other characters, so I don't think he's an out-of-the-blue pick for this season. Now, do I think he'll do well this season? Honestly, I'm not convinced. I know that Alec is one of the best strategists that we've seen from this show, and we know that he's capable of pulling together an alliance that can stick together for a decent amount of time. That being said, I'm not sure how much story is left to be told with Alec's character. From my perspective, the only thing that really needs to be tied up with Alec's story is whether or not he was able to get his life back in order, and whether or not his relationship with his wife and son is still estranged. And these aren't really plots that can be shown on the show, unless Alec somehow gets romantically involved with one of the fans. Granted, there's a non-zero chance of that happening, but I don't think it's likely. And I know that Fiore is also on this season and she'll probably have a few scenes with Alec, but as of right now, I think that the most we'll get from Alec is a few funny scenes with him and Fiore, some confirmation that he's much happier in life now compared to before Season 3, and then he'll be voted out for being a threat. Sorry Alec, but that's just what I think. Up next, it's our lovable himbo Tom. It doesn't shock me that Tom is back as a favorite. Despite the fact that there are definitely some vocal critics towards Tom, and the fact that he's been a pretty big part of the main storylines in both of his seasons, he and Jake are arguably the most popular couple in this community, so it makes sense to bring one of them back for a favorite season. And on a personal level, I don't hate Tom, although I truthfully would prefer to see one-time players like Nick and Dan get their chance at redemption, even though they don't fit the theme as well as Tom. Now, do I think Tom will do well in this season? Much like with Alec, I'm not convinced. I think he'll probably have an alliance with Gabby, Ali, and Aiden, and Aiden's connections with Lake and Rosa might give Tom enough numbers to survive early on. But beyond that, I just don't know what other story we could give Tom that would justify him making another deep run, especially since Jake isn't in this season. Maybe you could have Tom build his own character by taking a leadership role on his team and leading by example as a dominant physical player. This would raise Tom's confidence, which is good considering how low he felt after leaving his past two jobs, and allow him to develop as an individual, beyond his relationship with Jake. This newfound confidence and growth, as well as his status as a leader, would eventually result in people seeing him as a threat and voting him out. That's really all I can think of for Tom, but above all, I just hope we get a chance to see who he is as a person, now that he's not competing alongside Jake. Moving on, let's talk about our OG villain, Fiore. Despite her status as a villain, I've seen very little criticism regarding Fiore's actual character, and I'd go as far to say that she's probably one of the most popular campers in the Disventure Camp series. So, it doesn't shock me that she was chosen as a favorite for Season 5. And on a personal level, she's one of my favorite campers, so I'm really excited to see what Fiore will do in Season 5. Now, do I think Fiore will do well in Season 5? Honestly, I'm cautiously optimistic about Fiore's chances. I know that her villainous reputation precedes her, but in a show like Disventure Camp, you can justify bringing a character further into a season if they're given a good story. And for Fiore, I feel like she could be given a couple different stories that would allow her to have an extended stay in Season 5. For example, it's worth noting that Fiore will be 10 years old in Season 5, which is 4 years older than who she was in Season 1. While 4 years isn't a major time jump, I think Odd Nation Cartoons has an opportunity to explore how Fiore's personality may or may not have changed over the years. I don't want her to completely lose her villainous tendencies and no-nonsense personality, but I'm interested in seeing if these years of growing up have given Fiore a better understanding of who she is and what she wants out of life. Maybe deep down, she wishes that she had more people in her life who supported and cared about her. And who knows? Maybe Fiore will get a storyline with Rosa where Rosa treats Fiore as the child that she is, and Fiore gets emotional over finally having a caring mother figure in her life. Either way, I'm just glad that Fiore is back. And to cap off the Season 1 campers, we have Gabby. On a personal level, I do like Gabby. Her eccentricity and generally caring nature made her pretty fun to watch more often than not. And in general, I'm not super surprised that Gabby was brought back as a favorite, since I've seen many people in the community talk about how Gabby was kicked out too early in both of her previous seasons, with some people claiming that she should have won either season 1 or season 3. And with her girlfriend Ellie not being in this season, I'm curious to see what Gabby will bring to season 5. With that being said, do I think Gabby will do well in season 5? I thought about this for a while, and I think Gabby has a better chance of doing well compared to Alec or Tom, but not as much as Fiore. Much like Alec and Tom, I don't think there's been any significant setup for any story that could be given to Gabby that would justify bringing her far into a season. Her relationship with Ellie is still strong, and from what we can tell, her hallucinations of an evil version of herself are now in the past. And in this kind of show, if you don't have a story, people may not like you making it far into a season. That being said, the one reason why I think Gabby could make it far is because based on what I've seen, she's pretty well liked among the community, so I could imagine a world where she is given a brand new story that allows her to make it far into the season and win. Or maybe she just gets 8th place again. But regardless of how long Gabby is in season 5, I just hope that she'll be as entertaining as she was in her prior seasons. Moving on to the season 2 campers, let's talk about Rosa Maria. On a personal level, I'm really happy that Rosa Maria is back. I know that she gets some flack for being a support character in season 2, but her genuinely kind demeanor provided a good balance for the drama that season 2 had. And story-wise, I think it makes sense for her to return as a favorite, given that she made it to the merge in her season, and that beyond the criticisms of her support character role, I haven't seen that much criticism of Rosa, at least relative to most of the other campers in the series. And considering that she didn't compete in All Stars, I think Rosa is due for a season where she can tell a story that allows the audience to get more invested in her character. Now, do I think Rosa will do well in season 5? I'm actually quite hopeful for her. Don't get me wrong, I can imagine a scenario where Odd Nation Cartoons just writes Rosa as early boot fodder with the justification that she misses her daughter too much. But in my opinion, I don't think that's very satisfying given what we don't know about Rosa's character. I think this season is a great opportunity to give Rosa a story arc that gives her relevancy in the season while also showing more of her character. The most common theory that I've seen being thrown around the community is that Rosa and Fiore will strike up a mother-daughter bond, with Fiore elated that she has a better mother figure in her life, and perhaps Rosa goes through an arc where she realizes that she's more than capable of being a good mother, and that her daughter will always be proud of her, no matter how well she does on reality television. All I hope is that this season ends well for Rosa, because she deserves a good ending. Up next, we have one half of another Disventure Camp power couple, it's Aiden. I wasn't entirely surprised to see Aiden back. After all, he and James are another popular couple in the Disventure Camp community, and he hasn't won yet, so I think it's reasonable to classify him as a favorite. Of course, I've definitely seen a lot of criticism thrown Aiden's way, targeted mainly at his perceived coattail riding in season 2 and lack of individual plot in season 3. But despite this, I wouldn't consider Aiden to have an overwhelmingly vocal group of critics, especially if you put him up against people like Logan, Anastasia, Jake, and Rhea. So, I can accept his designation as a favorite for now. That being said, will Aiden do well in season 5? I'll be honest, I really don't know how to feel about Aiden's chances. On one hand, Aiden has already made it far in 2 seasons, and he doesn't really have any clear, active story that we can build off of, so that may work against him. That being said, I find it hard to believe that Odd Nation Cartoons would give us another season of Aiden without giving him his own storyline. I remember back in season 3 when there were so many people talking about how Aiden was the next to go, and he still made it far. Even Aiden made a joke about it in the Patreon shoutouts during his boot episode. So the way I see it, if Odd Nation Cartoons likes Aiden enough, and I think they do, they're not going to boot him early, even if his critics think that he should. I just hope he gets his own storyline this season beyond romance or pseudo-love triangle. Following Aiden, we have one of his friends, Lake. I wasn't surprised to see Lake return as a favorite. For as messy as the original season 2 was, it seems like Lake and her story arc is often praised by the community as one of the highlights of that season. And on a personal level, Lake is probably my favorite camper in the whole series, so her selection as a favorite makes perfect sense to me, and to many others. Now, will Lake do well in season 5? Well, I don't think she's going to be a super early boot like she was in season 3. I feel like that would be a waste. That being said, I'm not super confident that Lake will make it far. Don't get me wrong, I would love it if Lake made it far, and I wouldn't be mad if Lake won the season. That being said, I feel like Lake sort of has the same problem as her previous season, where she doesn't really have any loose ends to tie up in her story that could realistically be done in the season. Of course, Odd Nation Cartoons could just give her another storyline. Maybe one of the fans is going through something similar to what Lake went through in season 2, and now Lake has to take on the role of a mentor, rather than a mentee. If Lake gets another story, a deep run could be in her future. But if not, she might just end up being a supporting character in Aiden and Rosa's stories. I just hope her character isn't ruined by the end of the season, because she's such an awesome character. And to cap off the Season 2 campers, we have Ali. I'll be honest, I was surprised to see Ali picked as a favorite for this season. Not just because her story from All Stars is pretty much finished, but also because I tend to see a lot more hate for Ali among members of the community compared to the praise that she gets. Now, I think I recall Jared saying that Ali was picked for the season because she's the camper who has had the highest number of greetings purchased from them, and if this is true, then I guess that's fair. It's definitely one way to measure popularity. That being said, it certainly won't stop some people from criticizing the decision. And on a personal level, I can get behind Ali being a favorite, but I also can't help but feel like other characters deserve that spot more than her. That aside, do I think Ali will do well in Season 5? This might not age well, but I really don't think Ali will make it far in this season. After the backlash that she got in the previous season, and considering that her story arc of not caring about her haters was pretty much completed in Season 3, I just can't see Ali making another deep run. Maybe she'll get the story arc that I've been pitching if Jake ever returned, which is for Ali to realize that being on reality television isn't good for her, and that she has a good life back home as a streamer. But above all, I just hope Ali's standing in the community doesn't dip further than it already has. Now we move on to the Season 4 campers, starting with our favorite cosplayer, Benji. On a personal level, I'm really excited for Benji's return. Even though I originally predicted that he would be the fifth one eliminated from Season 4, his efforts to play a larger game as the season went on made me believe that he had a legitimate shot of winning. And based on what I've seen from around the community, Benji is a pretty popular camper among the Season 4 cast, so I think his selection as a favorite is pretty justified. But do I think Benji will do well this season? Again, I'm risking making a moment that doesn't age well, but I think Benji will be a contender to win it all in Season 5. Despite Benji's struggles early in Season 4, now that he's successfully been able to work on his social game, I think it's clear by now that Odd Nation Cartoons does not intend to use Benji as your stereotypical nerd that ends up as early boot fodder for not being able to fit in. Therefore, I really think that Benji will have an arc where he slowly works his way up the social hierarchy of the game. He helps out on a few big moves here and there to pad his resume, he makes one big move to establish himself as a frontrunner, and by the time he gets to the endgame, he stands tall as a strategic and social player who has a real shot of winning. Of course, I'm hoping that this turns out to be true, but in the end, I just hope that Benji remains as popular and entertaining as he is now. Up next, we have one half of the Mathletes duo, Spencer. I don't really know how to feel about Spencer's inclusion as a favorite. On one hand, I know that he's popular in some circles because of his closeness to Logan and his willingness to stand up to Anastasia. But at the same time, I know that he's unpopular in some circles because of his decision to forego having a good social game in favor of his strategic game. I guess I can see why he was selected as a favorite. There's enough moments in Season 4 that justify it. Although personally, I would prefer it if a different camper got his spot. But I'll get to that later. Now, do I think Spencer will do well in this season? If I had to make a prediction, I think he'll either make it really far, or he'll be one of the early boots. To me, if he learns from his mistakes and learns to care about his social game, he might be able to play well enough to make it far. Alternatively, if his teammates don't trust him due to his generally abrasive personality, he might be taken out early, before he has the chance to show that he's a changed man. Who knows? Maybe he'll form a strong bond with one of the fans who helps him realize the importance of having a good social game. And maybe once that person gets voted out or even takes the hit for Spencer, that will motivate him to dial in on his game and do whatever he needs to do to win. Overall, I just hope that Odd Nation Cartoons makes some good decisions with his character, because I think Spencer needs to prove to some parts of the community that he is deserving of his spot. Following Spencer, we have our marketing queen, Natalia. On a personal level, I can get behind Natalia's selection as a favorite, and I generally like Natalia when she did appear on screen during Season 4. She had a few memorable moments from this season, such as when she cursed out all the people who voted her out in her boot episode. And from my experience, I haven't really seen any significant criticism being sent towards Natalia, especially compared to some of her castmates. So, I don't mind having Natalia as one of the favorites in Season 5. That being said, do I think she'll do well in Season 5? Well, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic about Natalia's chances of making it far. Something that works in Natalia's favor is that I feel like she has enough of a clean slate that you can pretty much give her whatever story you want to give her. If you want her to use her communication skills to pull together a big alliance, you can do that. If you want her to use her sociability to build bonds with campers from the previous generations, you can do that. If you want her to use her PR experience to put forward an image of her being a hero, and then have her surprise everyone as a twist villain, you could do that. I just think there's enough potential to write a good story for Natalia, and I would not be shocked if Natalia made a deep run in Season 5. That would be queen behavior. And lastly, we have the mystery camper. At the time that I'm making this video, all we know is that this camper is one of the 6 campers remaining in Season 4. I've seen a lot of people speculate that the final camper is Logan because that would create a gender balance. But Odd Nation Cartoons doesn't always take that into account. There's evidence of that in Season 3 when there were more females in the cast than males. So, I still think it could be any of the final 6. If it is Logan, that's definitely an interesting choice considering how polarized the community seems to be regarding him. It seems that people either really love him or really hate him. If he is in Season 5, I don't think he should last long because of his flipping reputation, but he might stay for a while in order to give him and Spencer some more screen time. That sounds like something that could happen. In contrast, I've seen people speculate that Hannah will not be the final camper due to an image that was posted online that showed the top of her picture not being included with the pictures of the other 11 returnees. And assuming that Odd Nation Cartoons wraps up Hannah's current story arc in this season, Hannah may not need to immediately return for another season. Although, seeing Benji and Hannah interact with each other again would be really sweet. From my perspective, I've seen a lot of people express hope that Amelie would be the final camper. I can see why, and she does have a decent amount of popularity in the community as of right now. But I don't really know what story she could have in another season, so she wouldn't be my pick. Personally, I'd want to see Isabel be the final camper. We know that she can stir up drama, she's a decently well-rounded player, and I think she would have some interesting interactions with the other returnees. Specifically with Fiore, considering that Fiore is known for not liking nuns. Their interactions could be really fun to watch. Although, you could also get some drama out of Anastasia, considering how she isn't exactly the easiest person to interact with, and her personality has led to some conflicts throughout Season 4. However, I personally don't think it will be her, and even if it is, I don't see her lasting long. She would probably be early boot fodder after her team gets tired of her personality. And lastly, we have to consider Jade's candidacy for the final spot. There's a non-zero chance that it's her, considering that she could have some good interactions with Spencer. However, I don't really know what story she would get in a new season, and I can't say that she's gotten an overwhelming amount of support from the Disventure Camp community. She might end up winning this season, but I don't think she'll be in Season 5. And before I end this video, I want to take some time to talk about the campers that I'm surprised were omitted from this season. From the Season 1 campers, I'm not that shocked by any of the omissions. If there was no chance at bringing back these pre-mergers, I suppose it's easy to pick Alec, Tom, Fiore, and Gabby as the favorites for this season. But I could see the argument for Gret to return, or even Jake, considering both of their fan bases. For the Season 2 campers, I don't think I'm that surprised by the selections, especially since the pre-mergers in this season don't have a ton of vocal fans, except maybe with the exception of Yul, who I just can't see coming back. That being said, I would have loved to see Tess get another shot instead of Ali, since Tess really hasn't had an opportunity to shine. But I know deep down that Tess is not too well liked in this community, so I guess I understand her omission from the season. But from the Season 4 campers, there are a few that I'm really surprised didn't make it in. In particular, I'm really surprised that Ted, Linda, and Tristan didn't make the cut. I know that Ted is a pre-merger and he didn't appear in many episodes, but with all the fanfare surrounding his early elimination, and with so many people in the community cheering for him to win the comeback challenge, I'm surprised that he wasn't picked. As for Linda, she definitely has a very loyal group of followers in the community, and I'm sure that was partially helped by the fact that she was willing to go against Anastasia, who the community seems to be less inclined to like right now. So I wouldn't have been shocked if Linda returned, even though I'm not sure what story she would get. But the big shocker for me was Tristan. I think out of everyone in this series, Tristan may have the least amount of critics within this community. The only thing that I've really seen people criticize Tristan for is their reluctance to fight in the Episode 2 Immunity Challenge. But other than that, Tristan seems to be almost universally loved by this community, and I feel like they would have been a perfect pick as a returning favorite. And considering how much was teased between Benji and Tristan, added to the fact that Benji is returning for Season 5, I feel like this would have been a great opportunity to see more interactions between Benji and Tristan and expand on their already existing bond. But alas, I guess it just wasn't meant to be, and we'll have to wait and see if Odd Nation Cartoons' choices are the right ones. And that about does it for this video. What did you think of the video? Do you agree with my choices? Do you disagree? Who do you think should have been chosen as the favorites for this season? Either way, please let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like the video, click subscribe if you really like the video, and for some ending words of wisdom. Always be aware of your surroundings. Because you never know when you'll need to pull a move on a fashion designer in a ball pit. Thank you, and farewell.